I am a temple who walks the earth. My womb is fertile for giving birth. I am a woman planted in truth. I grow my branches from sacred roots. You are the form of who you want to be. So come untethered, your soul is free. We're here to heal, we're here to thrive. We are a dream who's come alive. We light a candle, our hearts awake. Illumination for God's sake. A revelation for God's sake. An evolution for God's sake. An inspiration for God's sake. 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 For God's sake.
And so it is. Welcome to Wild Soul Medicine Radio. I'm your host, Jody England, and I could not be more honored and delighted to be with you today. It is so good to be here on our very first episode. It's been really like a birth for us. We've been in this process of creation for months and months now, I guess 5 or 6 months almost, and my right-hand woman, Viv, and I are really just feeling like the parents of a proud new baby with the arrival and the unveiling here of the Wild Soul Medicine Radio Show. So thank you for joining us. It's so wonderful to be in your presence and to feel your energy and all of the love that's heading our way. And it's just so beautiful to bask in that. So today we're going to play. We're going to play today and all the days that we come here in this space together. One of the things that has kept me from doing a radio show over the last several years, I had one many years ago under my old company. And then I took a break because it felt really heavy and scheduled. And, I just didn't want to recommit to something like that. And so as I started to feel the push from the universe and get download after download about starting the radio show, I just really felt into what's in it for me, what makes it fun for me, and what would have me be able to operate within this container in a way that's sustainable. And what I discovered is what I've been discovering throughout this whole process of excavating my essence and really putting myself out there in the world fully just in essence. And that is that it has to be for me and about me and by me and of me. And so what feels fun to me is to come and explore and to not have a plan and to be unpredictable and to not be pigeonholed into a regular format and a regular even time frame. So I don't know how long the show will last. My sense is it will roughly be around a half an hour, but some days it may be 45 minutes. Or it might be 38 minutes or 38.5. We really don't know what that looks like until we get into the energy and see what's wanting to happen. So what I can promise you is that we will be flexible, we will be flowing. I will be always both student and teacher. So I do not show up here knowing anything, really. The more I learn, the less I know, And so I'm going to be showing up in inquiry right along with you. I'm going to be sharing insights that have occurred to me and have happened in my life. I'm going to be interviewing people that are on the edge of paradigm shifting, who have a unique perspective to share. And I'm also going to be talking with you all. So we may get to some of that today, or that will happen on various shows, but I'll be opening the lines. We'll be entertaining questions. I may do some readings for you all or some healings. We'll just kind of see how that flows. So nothing is off limits. And so it's going to just be a ride. And hopefully that, is fun for you too. My intention is that it will be, and my sense is that there will be many matches. And that also, while we're exploring this form of having, as little form as possible, that we can maybe discern and model what could that look like in your life and in your business? Where could you let go of some structure and play more in the flowing and the surrender and the birthing, the birthing actually in the moment. So that's where we are today. And in service of that, what's been so interesting over this past couple of weeks as I've been tuning into like, okay, 5 days and counting to the show, 4 days and counting, and like, what is the show going to be about, and what should the plan be? And what I keep getting from Source is no plan. The plan is no plan. And so, I'd have beautiful insights and meditation like, oh yeah, I should talk about that, or, oh yeah, I should tell that story. And then as soon as I would go to write it down, it would literally be Source pushing me away from the paper. Like, as soon as you write it, then it becomes a plan and it loses its expansiveness. So I literally am showing up on this inaugural radio show with not one note in front of me. I have no idea what we're going to talk about, and I am completely in surrender to that. So it is terrifying in a way, because for those of you who've known me over the years, I've been very, I'm a very competent and capable planner. And so, it's easy for me to put together an agenda and, a good talk, right? That's engaging and compelling and has good content. And so that's an easy fallback. And also, in essence, a plan isn't necessary because you really just are who you are and what you are in the moment. And so that's the part that's like leaping off into the abyss. So it's this play between Source and I today of I'm agreeing to ride and just see where that takes us. And one of the things that just happened, there's some kind of notification happening on my computer. I don't know what that is. So bear with me as, we may have all kinds of computer glitchiest things, and I'm going to just tune those out so that I can be in my essence rather than trying to figure out what they are while I'm talking. And then, we'll figure those out for next time. So let's just settle in here. Wherever you are, I'd like to invite you to settle in here with me and see if we can actually, sorry, I just got distracted again by the chirping. Isn't that great? That's what happens when we're in essence. All right, so let's go ahead and just settle in. See if you can close your eyes for a second. And I know many of you might be listening while you're eating your lunch or driving somewhere. So obviously, if you're driving, don't close your eyes. But if there's any way you can step away from what you're doing just for let's say 2 minutes. And imagine that you could just allow your energy to arrive with your body, right? If you could just allow yourself to show up here. Imagine your energies collecting, letting go of whatever you've been engaged in up until this moment. And just be here. If you're sitting down, imagine that you can kind of wiggle your sit bones as if you're making a butt print in the sand. And allow yourself to just root in and relax, giving yourself the gift of just a moment of presence, just a moment of being fully here. Yeah, and then let's receive a breath together. And exhale. Good. All right. So, as I tune in, it feels like the place to start today is talking about essence. Because really, the purpose of Untamed You and Wild Soul Medicine Radio and all of the things that we're up to is really about championing the return of essence, right? And what is essence? What is this thing that we are on a crusade to bring back? And essence, by definition, is the true invariable nature of a thing. And so we each have an essence to us, right? An essence of our soul, which is sort of like, what is the flavor of us? What is all of us without our story, without even our name, right? So if I'm not Jody England and I'm not a wife and a mom and a college graduate and a this and a that, what am I? What am I? And at the core, I am my essence. And so we come into the world, right, as a soul in essence, and we get born into a human body, and we immediately begin the process of becoming limited. And so that continues and continues. And then, around the age of 5 or 6, we form our ego. And in that ego formation moment, we really completely lose ourselves. We actually separate into almost like a hologram of ourselves, right? And that is the taming process. So then, because the ego's job is to protect us, we start pulling in all kinds of reasons that have us have to be a certain way. So, what will our parents think? And will our tribe accept us? And is it okay to shine? Or maybe we should turn our volume knob down a little bit on our shining so that we don't offend anyone or threaten anyone. And so we have a whole life of that. And then usually there's a period, in our like teens and 20s where we are the most free, where we tend to be, kind of close to essence and, living our as close to our truth as we might. And then, we have kids and we get married and we get jobs, and then we go into the, round 2 of taming, which is a pretty intense round. And so what is being called forth in this new age is really a return to truth. And we see it happening. We see it happening all over the world with our systems, with our economic system, the turbulence that's been happening there, and I believe more turbulence to come. We see it in our political systems and, just in various places. We see it with Mother Nature trying to come into integrity, right? We can't keep doing the things we've been doing and expect there to be a different result. And so many of us are being called forth, in some cases pushed forth very firmly, to excavate ourselves, to come out from under these layers of taming that are really like a cell we've put ourselves in. And we are holding the door closed, and we are trying to figure out why we can't get out. And it's because we've forgotten that we're the ones holding the door closed. And so really the work that we do here at Untamed You is to help you discover and excavate your own true essence. And it is not an easy job, right? It is, it's sort of fun for us because that's what we're made for. But, going through it and excavating my own essence has not been a fun process, right? In my email I sent the other day to my list, I likened it to, there are more fun things you can do, like getting a root canal or doing your tax return, right? Excavating an essence is, it's brave, courageous work. And there is every reason not to do it. There's every reason to stay the same. And, especially if your life looks pretty good, it's even harder. It's harder to do it because it's like, I've got some money coming in and I've got a relatively stable marriage and, I have a place to live and I have some clients. And so it's like, why would I? Why would I go looking for stirring things up or finding more of who I am? And, the truth of that is because if you're not in essence, you aren't in truth. And that's an actually really painful place for your soul to be. So, that's that kind of niggling that happens, that push that's sort of like unspoken that says, is this all there is? Who is asking that? Who is asking that? It's your soul saying, this is not all there is. This is not who you are, right? You are more than you have become. And so, I wanted to just share, I guess, some reflections from this process that I've been undergoing. So I've been helping people return to essence for about 10 years, almost 11 now. And, so I've been doing my work along with that, my personal work. And in the last 6 months, my personal excavation process took on really a fever pitch. Like the velocity of it went from, let's say I was always at a pretty fast clip, right? So I was at maybe a 60 mile per hour, let's say. And in the past 6 months, I've been going, 300 miles per hour every day. And so, it's this really, it's been this process of intense introspection and discovery and surprise and turbulence, and also bliss and glory and joy and aha. And, and that's part of the ride. And one of the things that I want to really communicate today is that returning to essence is a ride, and it's not about avoiding the ride, right? It's not that there's a place you're going to get to and then you're going to be complete. So even though those of you who knew me 6 months ago can see this vast shift in my appearance, in my words, in my vibration, in my work, I haven't by any means arrived. I am still very much in the journey, and I will continue to be moving at warp speed, which is one of the reasons why holding a loose form actually makes a lot more sense these days, because we're all evolving so fast that, when I try to put together like an offering, like what will be the next course I'll be offering, it's like I conceive of the course, and then before I can even create a page where people could sign up for the course, I feel like I've evolved past it, And so it's kind of like playing with these forms of how do we do these really intense internal processes while also navigating out in the world, because we have to earn a living, and we have to be a mom, and we have to show up at school functions and things like that. So, how is it that we give ourselves this, what may seem like a luxury of going really internal and doing this work, and then, doing the stuff out in the world. And, what I want to offer you is that really this internal work is the thing. It is why you came here. You didn't come here to carpool. You didn't come here to, make dinner every night. You may do those things when you're in your essence, but it's not the point. And even, earning money in your business or finding your purpose, I'm saying all that with air quotes, is not what you came here for. You came here to be who you are. That is the gift. That is the purpose. And there's nothing that's more important than that, because when you are fully yourself, you're going to do some things out in the world, but the things you'll do when you're in essence will be from truth, and they will have power, and they will have vulnerability, and they will have impact, because you will become the direct channel of exactly what you are, rather than I'm going to do this kind of false thing that I'm a little bit connected to while I try to figure out, what myself actually is. That's where we've had it backwards all these decades and decades. So this is a space for us to play, to really deepen into these inquiries around how can we know if we're in essence? And if we notice that we're not in essence, what do we do about it? And how can we navigate the barriers or the obstacles that seem to come up as we move closer and closer to being an essence out in the world? And how can we also be a stand for each other so that when we think we're an essence and then we maybe get our nose bloodied by some contact with the world, we don't retreat back into falseness, but we can stand for each other and say, I see you, I love you, I'm sorry that experience happened, and you got to get back out there, right? So I'm going to share a few obstacles that have come up for me on the way to this current expression of my essence out in the world. And the one that's really sticking out to me the most in this moment is yesterday I was meditating about the show, and I was talking to God, and I said, please make it really clear to me what the show is supposed to be about tomorrow, right? Like, because I have ideas, right? But I trust you, and like, I really want to make sure I can hear you. So please make it really clear to me, right? And so this was sort of the flavor of the conversation. And if you can hear in there, one of my biggest obstacles to being an essence is control. Control, right? You may resonate with that. And so I'm always playing with, like, how can I let go of control? Can I trust? Can I surrender? Is it okay? So that was the flavor. And it's like, so what was underneath that, the essence of my ask was really like, I'm willing to trust you as long as I know what the plan is, right? After being told so many times, like, have no plan. So this morning I get on the phone with Viv to, talk about details for the show today. And she says to me, like, oh, and there's one other thing that, like, maybe I should just tell you it later, but, like, we got this email and, don't worry about it now. I'll just tell you later, right? So immediately I'm a psychic. So I'm like, okay, there's some heat over there. So what is it? So long story short, she sends me over the email, and someone that I don't know found my site and emailed, and the subject line of the email is, your ego is out of control, right? And so the gist of the email was, how dare you call yourself a medicine woman? I'm going to, just so you know, I'm putting you on these 2 fraud sites. I can't believe that you would, pay to pray and that you would charge people for medicine. And clearly you've been around some ceremonies and now, blah, blah, blah. I don't know what the whole thing was, but that was the gist, right? It was very venomous and like, it even ended with a threat, right? Like, and you better stop this or there's going to be danger to you and your family. And so it felt like a dagger in my heart, right? It was like, eh. And this is what happens, right? This is what happens when we put ourselves out there. And I know I'm not the only one, because it happens to my clients, it happens to my friends. I was just talking to some of my friends the other day who we mastermind together about, putting ourselves and our work out in the world. And, it never fails that you take the big leap and then, there's like some venomous criticism from someone. Or I remember maybe for those of you who might have been on my list when I was doing Wake Up Call TV, I did what I thought was my edgiest episode, where the title of it was Rush Limbaugh is a Big Fat Asshole. And it was meant to be funny. It was meant to be a post about it's okay to be angry, right? And so obviously I know there's judgment and, the statement and all of that, but what happened is I got this whole flood of emails from my list. Flood. It was probably 10, right? It felt like a flood. And people were saying, like, I can't believe, you said this and it's so judgmental and I'm leaving your list. And I totally attracted it because I felt like it was edgy. And so I attracted people who reflected my fear. And then it was like evidence of like, oh my gosh, like this is what's going to happen if I, put myself out there. And, that was several years ago when I was way less edgy than I am now, right? So, I got this email and of course, at first I took the subject line as your ego is out of control. Like, I went into defense internally, like, oh, my ego's not in control. Like, I've been doing all this work to get my ego out of the way, and I this and I that, and he doesn't get me. And then I went into meditation. And I had this beautiful awareness of this conversation that I had with God. That was, make it really clear to me what the show is supposed to be about. And the show is supposed to be about essence. And in order for it to be about essence, I have to get my ego out of the way, which means I have to get out of control, right? So I literally get it in an email. And what this person was saying in the email is also like a fear that has come up for me, which is this thing about being a medicine woman, And so this felt like a kind of a fun way to introduce that whole topic. And so I'm just going to share that. Part of this excavation work that I've done here recently, one of the things I did was a shamanic journey. And I'll actually be interviewing the woman I did the journey with at some point on the show. She's amazing. And in that process, we discovered this past life that I had where I actually was a medicine woman, named medicine woman, at Wounded Knee. And she still was in there, and there was a lot of trauma surrounding her. And so we ended up doing a lot of healing and integrating. And as it turns out, like she really is like an integrated part of me. And sometimes she speaks, and sometimes she heals, and she's part of the work, and she's sharing her medicine with me now. And so that has been this whole internal struggle for me as this one practical voice of the metaphysical who, only in the last couple years even believes in past lives, and, was happy to leave those to other energy people. But now it's like living and breathing in me. And then also making peace with medicine woman herself, right? Who has a lot of grief to her and a lot of trauma, which is an edge that hasn't been something that I wanted to be with. And so it's like all of those pieces have been occurring. And as it came time to put the website together and the, excavating the essence of the, I hate to call it brand, but I haven't yet come up with the better, version of the term people get. So just putting all that together, it kept coming forward that I'm a medicine woman. And I had all these misgivings around like, well, I'm not Native American. I really respect Native Americans, and I don't want to step on anyone's toes, right? So this would be a whole version of my taming story. And we all have them. Like, just so you know, there's no version of your taming story that's legit. So, even though there might be a lot of people who would have a similar story about not wanting to offend Native Americans and hold that sacred and blah, 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 that still is a form of, it's a story. And so what it came down to was I'm branding my essence, and this is who I am. I am actually medicine woman reincarnated. So I've never been to a Native American ceremony. I've never been trained as a shaman. I don't actually give people medicine like she did. My medicine is different, and it's also who I am. And that's what's cool about returning to the essence of who you are, because then you don't have to actually justify it to anyone. When you just be who you are, there can be lots of people who call themselves medicine women, and I have lots of friends who do, and we all have our flavor of what that means. So when we're all anchored into the source of our own truth, that's when there truly is no competition, and there is no judgment, and there is no splitting hairs on, do you have the right to that word, or do I have the right to that word, or whose work is this in the world, right? It's, I am me. That is my work in the world. I am me. And so, let's see, is there anything else I want to say about that? So, so I want to do two things about that. The first thing is I want to just own it was painful. I don't want to minimize it. It was painful. It was irritating. I did not respond gracefully in the moment. The whole conversation with Viv, it was like on my mind, and I was preparing my defense and like, what should I do with this person? And should I, just delete the email? But it was still stirring me. So like all of that response is going to happen. And that is the ego response. So there's nothing wrong with having an ego. You need one. And because as long as you're human, your ego protects you and has you, not walk out into the street and not go outside without clothes and things like that. So ego is fine. And it's even easier to navigate ego when you don't judge it. So you can just say like, oh, hello, ego, wanting to defend your position and be right and be safe, right? Because I also felt dangerous. And then it's like just knowing that, okay, once that has run its course, I'm available for seeing what's the truth here. So the truth is I have compassion for the wounding of that person, right? In reality, his ego is also out of control because everything he was spewing on the email is fear and control and judgment. And so there's medicine for him as well. And, there's also truth that when you untame, you may trigger people who are not yet free, right? So they're still holding their cell door closed. And they see you walking free along the hallway, making your way to the sunshine. And they're like, hey, you can't do that. Why should you do that when I'm not doing that? Right? And so you don't have to defend against that actually. And it actually isn't dangerous. It's only dangerous if you have a story that it is. So the clearest space is to be fully anchored in your truth. So whenever I feel rocked by something like that, the answer is to turn inward and become more fully me. So I anchor way down into the earth, and then I fill myself up with me, right? And when that happens, there actually is, it's like there's no question anymore. Like there's nothing that needs done with anything. There's nothing that needs addressed with that email. There's nothing that is even really a problem with that email. The email did what it was intended to do for me, which is I asked for medicine from God to say, what is this show about? And he delivered some medicine. God delivered medicine. And I took the medicine, and the medicine is be your essence. Be your essence, right? So that's the kind of medicine woman that I am. For me, medicine is all about lessons and insights and learning. And there are so many forms that medicine can take in our lives. It might be, wisdom from the other side, or, psychic information, or, all of those kind of fun things. And it might also be, someone who shows up to trigger you. It might be, an interaction that you have with someone you're in relationship with. It might be a failing that you experience, or a pain that happens in your life. And it might also be joy. It might be an unexpected surprise or a joyful experience. So really, there's medicine to be found in everything. And for me, when I look at the world in that way, as everything that's happening is for my benefit, everything is happening to serve my wellness and my return to truth, that feels really good to my system. So I am a medicine woman, and I am also a bridge builder, and I am a tracker. I'm a soul tracker, and that's who I am. And what I do is I help people discover who they are and move the things that are in the way of them being what they are. So that feels good. It feels good to say, and it feels good to claim. And my invitation for you is to lean in a little. Lean in for yourself to the places that you may be putting a bushel over the shininess of your essence so as not to offend someone in your life, so as not to experience potential projections from people who wouldn't get it or wouldn't like it, right? And just feel, what if you were actually safe? What if it was okay for you to be you, that the more you become, the safer you actually are. And so what I'd like to do is walk you through a little exercise. Yeah, we're going to do that. So I'm going to walk you through an exercise if you'd like to play. This is one of the ways that you can practice with filling up with essence, right? So that's that process I said where you get the barb directed at you about how dare you be in your essence, right? Because I don't like it. And then you go inward and you actually anchor down deep, and then you fill all the way up, and then the thing becomes not a thing. So that's what I'm going to walk you through right now. All right, so go ahead and close your eyes. For those of you who have a question around time, I think we'll be doing this for 5 to 6 minutes. All right, so if you don't have time right now, you can come back and listen to the recording too. All right. So go ahead and close your eyes. And since it's our first time experimenting with this, let's not imagine a place that we're hiding out from someone, right? Because that'll just make it a little more difficult. But I want you to just have the feeling of what is it like to actually be in the energy space of essence? Like, how good does it feel to be filled up with yourself? Okay. So as you close your eyes, I want you to imagine that you can find a volume knob right in the center of your body, so right around your solar plexus area. So imagine that you can find that volume knob and that it happens to be numbered 1 to 10. And so just check if you knew what yours is set on right now, what would it be? And as you notice, no judgment necessary. So all kinds of things happen to cause us to turn it down. And even on a good day, most of us walk around between a 2 and a 4 in our essence. So if it's really low, that's fine. It's just good information to have. All right. So from there, imagine that you can begin to turn the volume up just one number. So if you're a 2, go to a 3. And what you're imagining is that your essence is like a hand filling out a glove, right? So the essence is the hand, your body is the glove. So as you're turning essence up, you're becoming more and more full from the inside out. So this way, instead of your body just being a shell, that's like a facade you wear, you're going to actually be all the way out to the edges, right? And then you're going to surpass the facade, right? So go ahead and imagine you can turn up to the next number now. Right? And so you may be noticing there could be some bumpy places where the essence doesn't have room to come out, or something's pushing against the essence from having it actually go all the way to the edges. Or you may have some thoughts come in like, oh gosh, I can't go to a 4. What if this happened? Or, oh, I have to remember to do that thing later. Right? So just say hello to those things as they pass through. And the thing about essence is it is the true nature of who you are. So your soul wants to be forward. Your soul wants to be all the way out to the edges. And it is the most powerful force, right? So your essence can actually energetically push out anything that's in the way as you expand the volume. So just imagine as the essence pushes up against any resistance that those things can just easily move outside your body. They just get pushed right out of your space. There you go. And feel free to move your body. You don't have to be super still. If it's easier to move, to imagine those things moving out, go ahead and do that. Good. And now turn up to the next number. It's safe, I promise. And now the next number. Go ahead and turn it up a little more. So you may be up around a 7, maybe even an 8 at this point. So check your back. A lot of times we hold tension in our back, or that's kind of the last place that we expand to. So just see if there's anything you could allow to exit from your back. Allow that essence to have sort of like a springy quality so that it just easily pushes stuff out that's in the way. And I'm moving, sort of quickly through this just for the sake of time, but you can do this practice on your meditation cushion each day, and you can take as long as you want to take. So you may spend 15 minutes just getting from 5 to 6, and that's perfect. And even if you move from like a 2 to a 5 and then you walk around that day at a 5 in essence, that's so much better for you and everyone you're going to interact with. So it's not about getting to a 10, and nobody really walks around in a 10 all the time. Most people hardly reach 10 ever. So this is really just about having an experience of what this is, and then you can play with it ongoingly. So now let's play with going to a 9 if you're not at a 9 yet. And let's just hold at a 9 for a minute. Because here's where it can start to get a little shaky. So it might feel a little like the wheels are going to come off, or like, oh my gosh, this is a lot. So give yourself permission. If you don't want to go past a 9, you don't have to, right? But what I'd like to say about this place is it's kind of like being taught how to back float. So, when you're teaching someone to back float and you're kind of supporting them in the water, and you're asking them to like put their head back in the water, and then they keep looking up or lifting their head to see, are they floating? And then their butt sinks, So getting to a 10 in essence is like that, where you literally have to let go. You have to let your head rest in the water so that you can really feel this experience of floating. Because what's going to happen in essence is you're going to forget who you are. Your mind will shut off. There will be no ego chatter. You won't even know that you are anything. If you're a meditator, it's that experience of the space between the thoughts. Or if you know big mind practice, it's like that. It's like you're letting go of the ego, which is the individuality, and you are moving into essence, which is all that is of you and all that is, period. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you now to turn your volume up to 10, and I'm going to serve as your watcher, right? So we're going to just play with this for like 30 seconds, which maybe doesn't sound very long, but it'll feel long. So for 30 seconds, I'm going to ask you to be in a 10, no words, and I will tell you when it's time to come back. So if you float for a minute and then you kind of pick your head up to say like, wait, did I just float? I think it was in essence. Just flow right back into essence, okay? All right, so when you're ready, go ahead and turn your volume up to 10 and allow yourself to surrender and float. Okay, that's 30 seconds. So go ahead and come on back if you'd like. You're also welcome to just keep floating. You can hear my voice. You can totally be in essence, right? So this is the practice, really. This is the practice. You can do this each morning. And what I suggest is setting a timer for yourself so that you have a watcher. So maybe it's just the timer on your phone and you give yourself 2 minutes or 3 minutes or 5 minutes. Where you can just play with, can I surrender that much? Can I be gone from myself for that long, right? It's interesting because you're not gone from yourself, you are fully yourself, but you're gone from how you know yourself. That's really what you're surrendering from, right? And so then what happens is as you get good at doing it on the cushion, then you can start practicing like, oh, can I be a 10 when my eyes are open, right? And so you might just practice that for weeks. And then, oh, can I be in essence when I'm standing up? Because as you start to move your body, you turn your essence down typically. And then once you've done that, can you be in essence when you sit at your computer screen? Or can you be in essence when you interact with another person, right? So there's so many ways that, in a way, this is like the most simplistic practice, and it's also the heart of the entire ball of wax, right? So have fun and play with it. It's a beautiful, beautiful place to be. And this is how we heal the planet. So as you show up fully you, and I show up fully me, then we create this harmonic that invites others to do the same. And when we're all in truth, nobody wants to hurt the environment because we already know we're enough, so we don't need to take more than we need. And when we're all in truth, there doesn't need to be fraud, right, or unfair economic systems, because we all have everything. We all already are good. And there is no war, because just like even if someone sends a nasty email, first of all, that wouldn't happen if that person was in essence. And second of all, it can just end with me. It can just ground right down and away without any fuel being given to it. You see? So peace really does begin and end inside you. And this is what we're going to be playing with. There's so many ways to access it and be with it and play with it. But this is the work. So I feel like there may be a caller or two that would like to either ask a question or share an experience around essence. So I'd like to open the telephone line. So if you're interested in chatting with me live, the call-in number is 937-552-2747. I'll say it again in case you didn't have a pen ready. 937-552-2747. 937-552-2747. So call in if you'd like to share something live. Viv will receive your call, and then she'll put you through to me. And there's about a 10-second lag on the line, so we'll give that a minute to surface and see if anybody wants to chat. Good. Yes. So while we're waiting, I think I'll just share a preview of some upcoming topics and guests that are on my plate. We have some people who are going to be coming to talk about soul embodiment, people that are going to be talking about new paradigms for finances, living your purpose in a way of heart space, radical communication techniques. I mean, you name it, we are tracking these guests down and bringing them to you. And also in between guests, we'll be doing things like, showing you the work, showing you, how we go in to excavate, like if you want to be in essence, but that doesn't actually, but you can't get it to happen, how I use my psychic abilities to actually see what's in the way there and then clear that for you so you can let the essence actually shine. And we'll talk all about that in future shows. But for today, it feels like, I'll just give it one more minute to see if there's anybody else who wants to call on. I'll give the number one more time, 937-552-2747, 937-552-2747. And if you're not feeling called to speak, but you want to be in the conversation also is happening in our tribe. And so the tribe is on Facebook. You can search Facebook for Wild Soul Medicine Radio Tribe, Wild Soul Medicine Radio Tribe. Or if you can't find it that way, you can just put in the address bar facebook.com/groups/Wild Soul Medicine Radio Tribe. And then when you get there, you just need to click the join button right under my picture. And we've got nearly 200 women in there already. And after each show, we'll be posting some discussion questions so that we can continue talking about whatever the topic is for the show. And really, that's going to be a vibrant community of learning and supporting. It's women who are interested and committed to evolutionary velocity, who know that essence is the way and are navigating that space together of how do we help each other be fully who we really are. So we would love to have you over there in the tribe if you're not already there. All right. So it looks like we will go ahead and float you out in essence. We'll float you out in essence. So if you'd like to just close your eyes, allow yourself to turn that volume knob up and just be in the back floating space of joy that this work exists, that you are not alone, and that all is so totally and fully well. Allow yourself to surrender into that. And we will see you back again next week and every week on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Pacific time, 12 o'clock noon Eastern time for more medicine for your wild soul. Thanks for joining us, everyone. See you then. Bye.
We light a candle, our hearts awake. Illumination, for God's sake. A revelation, for God's sake. An inspiration, for God's sake. Illumination, for God's sake. For God's sake. For God's sake. For God.